Hi, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Dr. Marie Nowlan, and I'm a naturopathic doctor who's been in practice for nearly 15 years. And during that time, I've had the privilege of walking alongside so many people as they navigate the unfortunately confusing, frustrating, and often lonely journey of autoimmune illness. Now, I want to start us off with a stat. Did you know that autoimmune diseases affect more people than cancer or heart disease? Over 50 million Americans are living with an autoimmune condition. That's 1 in 5 people. And more than 80% of these people are women. Now, you're here because in some way that statistic touches your life. And it touched mine too. Unfortunately, I'm part of this statistic. Now, this work is not just professional for me, it's also personal. I know how it feels to be exhausted, unable to move or think clearly, and like your body is working against you. I'm here today because I don't want anyone else to go through what I've been through. This has become my life's work. Now, I believe it matters to you too because you have your own life's work. You have people who count on you, and when our health gets in the way, everything else suffers. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Now, in the next 30 minutes, we're going to dive into how to calm inflammation, reduce autoimmune symptoms, and stop feeling exhausted all the time. So let's begin. Now, a little bit about me here, but apart from being a naturopathic doctor, I have a deep passion for helping others find their way back to health. I'm the owner of Roots Naturopathic Clinic and the creator of the Beyond Autoimmunity Method, where my focus is on supporting others living with autoimmune conditions. Now, outside of my practice, you'll often find me outdoors hiking, at the gym, or playing the piano, usually with a few cats on my lap and my dog at my feet. I'm lucky to have an incredible family, and we love to travel and explore together. Now, another thing about me is that my heart is probably bigger than my body. I care so deeply and I feel so deeply. I'm the kind of person who tears up right alongside my patients. And honestly, I'll even get misty eyed when a tree is cut down or when we pass roadkill. I just can't help it. I generally feel that sense of connection and humanity in everything. Now, that's a little bit about me, but this is also me and why this presentation and helping others with autoimmunity is such a passion of mine. I've been living with multiple autoimmune conditions over the last 18 years. Now, full disclosure, I wish I figured it out overnight 18 years ago, but I tried to ignore what was happening at first. I used to feel like my symptoms were all so inconvenient and I didn't have time to be sick. I was a people pleaser, high achieving perfectionist that had a hard time prioritizing what I needed for my health. Now, for years, I pushed through the fatigue, I pushed through the pain and the brain fog until one day my body finally forced me to stop and take the time I needed for my health. I call that my cosmic 2x4 in the form of MS. Now, identifying the hidden sources of my inflammation was a turning point in my journey. It helped me expand what I call my resiliency bucket and stop flaring up all the time, regain my energy, and finally start feeling like myself again. That's why I created the Beyond Autoimmunity Method, because it is possible to change our story. Now, today's webinar is about sharing the tools, giving you insights so you can change your story too and take back your health. Now, a quick pause here in case you're not familiar with naturopathic medicine. Naturopathic medicine is a distinct system of healthcare that combines modern science with natural therapies, focusing on understanding and addressing the root causes of disease rather than just treating symptoms. Now, naturopathic doctors are licensed healthcare providers. I liken us to being health detectives, essentially, by taking comprehensive health histories and testing, obviously, when it's indicated. We look for patterns to see if we can uncover the root cause of your health concerns. Now, while conventional care excels at managing acute illness and emergencies, unfortunately, it often falls short when it comes to addressing chronic health concerns and building long-term health. As one of my mentors says, the system that manages illness was never designed to build health. Naturopathic doctors fill that gap by working to identify root causes, addressing imbalances, and guiding you toward true health and resilience. Now, I'll give you a moment to read this cartoon. It's a little funny slash not so funny cartoon because unfortunately it happens far too often in the autoimmune world, especially earlier on in our journey. I'm willing to bet that you have experienced something like this before. Now, I know this far too well as well. This was me 20 years ago when my autoimmune symptoms started. They weren't specific enough to diagnose me with anything, and my labs looked relatively normal, so they sent me on my way. Now, if you're here, chances are you've experienced something like this too, and like me, you want answers. Now, a significant part of the puzzle and at the core of why we aren't feeling well is inflammation. But inflammation is part of our body's natural defense system. It's how your immune system responds to injury, infection, or stress. Once the injury, infection, or stress resolves, though, the inflammation should resolve as well. Now, the issue with inflammation and autoimmunity is that it can become chronic, as we often struggle to resolve our inflammatory cascades. When it becomes chronic or always on, it can damage tissues, trigger or worsen autoimmune flares, and lead to symptoms like fatigue, pain, and brain fog, just to name a few. And the list of symptoms, of autoimmune symptoms, is quite long. Now, I would like to introduce what I call my inflammation bucket analogy. Now, the level of inflammation in our body can be thought of like the level of water in a bucket. Every source of inflammation adds water. So whether that's stress, infections, blood sugar swings, lack of sleep, toxins, gut issues, even emotional strain. When that water level creeps higher, it sometimes only takes one small thing, a stressful week, a poor night's sleep, a food trigger, for the bucket to overflow. That's when symptoms or flare-ups happen. Now, unfortunately, a lot of us are walking around with an inflammation bucket that's already near full. So as I mentioned, it only takes one more drop or one more trigger to cause a flare-up. The work I do with people using my Beyond Autoimmunity framework helps lower the level in that bucket. And as we do that, you're not just reducing inflammation, you're actually expanding your resiliency. That means even when life throws a trigger your way, because it's not a matter of when or if, it's a matter of when, right? Your body has more capacity to handle it without always tipping into a flare. Okay, so now that you can picture how inflammation fills the bucket, the next step is understanding what's contributing to it. To reduce inflammation and get to the root cause of autoimmunity, we need to focus on these four essential areas, what I call the four pillars of autoimmune resilience: your gut, mitochondria, which are your energy powerhouse of all of our cells, hormones, and immune system. Now, when we support each of these systems, we help bring the body back into balance and lower the chronic underlying inflammation that can drive autoimmune symptoms. These pillars aren't separate, they're deeply interconnected. And when we address them together, we create the conditions for better health. Now, I want to take a slight aside here, just in case you've never heard of mitochondria before. It'll just help for the rest of the webinar to make sure that we're on the same page. But mitochondria, as I said, are essentially the powerhouses of our cells. They produce the energy that our body needs to function, and that's in the form of ATP. Now, but they do so much more than that. Mitochondria help regulate inflammation. They can also help regulate cell survival and immune system signaling. When they're not working well due to either stress, toxins, infections, nutrient deficiencies, they can trigger or worsen autoimmune activity. Supporting mitochondrial health can help reduce fatigue, calm inflammation, and even help our immune system function more appropriately. Now, before we dive into some of the common autoimmune myths, I want to take a moment to check in with where your body might be at right now and where you are on your inflammation journey. You've already heard me talk about the inflammation bucket, but now I want you to see how this concept might be showing up for you personally. You can grab a piece of paper and sketch out a bucket, or you can just imagine it in your mind. But as we go through each pillar here, from gut, mitochondria, hormones, and immune system, when you hear a symptom or an experience that sounds familiar, place that pillar inside your bucket, right? Now, if you don't have any of the symptoms in that specific pillar, you can keep it outside the bucket. So again, this isn't about judgment or getting it perfect here. It's just a quick way to notice which area might be contributing the most to your inflammation load. Now, in the gut health pillar, which is the foundation of our immune balance, we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the presentation. But for now, some of the symptoms that might be present when our gut health is not tip top would be potentially bloating, heartburn, irregular bowel movements, either more constipated or looser stools, food sensitivities, maybe brain fog after meals. Those are signs that the gut pillar might be adding to your bucket. So if you have any of those symptoms, even if it's just one of them, you add it to your bucket. If you have none of those symptoms, lucky you, you would put it outside of the bucket. Now, for mitochondrial health, again, your energy engine. Now, if you struggle with fatigue that doesn't match your activity level, if you struggle with brain fog or crashing after physical activity, your mitochondria may be under stress. The next one is for hormonal health, the body's communication network. If your sleep is inconsistent, moods fluctuate, PMS is intense, or you often feel stressed and overwhelmed, or maybe you have blood sugar crashes, those are all hints that your hormonal rhythms might be off. And last but not least, immune health. So the body's internal regulator. If you experience frequent infections, or when you do get sick, it really takes a while to get better. Or maybe you have a significant infection history, like dental infections, root canals, you have had mono or Lyme disease, maybe, just to name a few. And then lastly, unpredictable flares. These might all be signs that your immune system is telling you the bucket is near the brim. So again, just kind of double checking there for gut, mitochondria, hormones, and immune system pillars. If you have any of the symptoms, you put it in your bucket. If you don't, you put it outside the bucket. Wherever your pillars landed, inside or outside the bucket, there's no judgment here. It is simply information and gives us clarity. Seeing where you're stuck gives us a starting point, and I'm happy to help guide you from there if you want. Now, the good news is inflammation isn't fixed. When we lower that bucket level, energy, clarity, and calm naturally follow. This exercise gives us a glimpse of where inflammatory triggers might be showing up. Of course, when I work one-on-one with patients, we go deeper with a thorough intake, comprehensive testing, and individualized plans. But this simple reflection helps you see the big picture. So now that you have a better sense of where you're starting from, let's talk about some of the outdated ideas that keep so many people from real progress with their health. I want to call out some common beliefs about autoimmunity that I see holding people back every day in my practice. You might recognize some of these. I know I've actually heard a lot of these, actually all of these, from my specialists. The first one is that it's all genetic, that our autoimmune condition is all genetic, and that there's nothing we can do. The second one is that gut health has nothing to do with autoimmune disease. The third one, and I actually like to tie in a fourth one at the same time here because they're kind of interchangeable, but the third one is that medication is the only way to manage this. And then the fourth one would be that diet and lifestyle don't really matter. So let's look at these a little bit more here, but the truth is we know so much more now than we did even 10 or 15 years ago. Autoimmunity isn't just about genetics. We now understand that inflammation, immune system dysregulation, and environmental triggers play a huge role. And most importantly, we can influence many of these factors. This is where naturopathic medicine shines, by addressing root causes and addressing obstacles to health. So let's break it down, right? Let's break down all these outdated beliefs and replace them with something more evidence-based, true, and hopeful. Now, myth number one, my health issues are all genetic and out of my control. This belief creates a sense of helplessness and hopelessness, like there's nothing we can do to help ourselves. But here's the thing. Genetics may load the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. Research into epigenetics shows that our genes are not our destiny. Factors like nutrition, stress, sleep, infections, and toxin exposure all affect whether those genes get switched on. This is why we screen for and address all these things in my Beyond Autoimmunity method. So to say this a different way, environmental triggers play a bigger role than genetics. Genetics account for only approximately 30% of autoimmune risk. The other 70% is driven by environmental and lifestyle factors. While there's currently no cure for autoimmunity, that doesn't mean it's out of our hands. It's absolutely possible to manage it well. So, no, it's not all genetics, and it's definitely not out of our control. Our daily choices can influence how our genes behave and how we feel. So, myth number two, gut health has nothing to do with autoimmune disease. This outdated belief is still common in conventional medicine, and it's simply not true. The gut is actually the body's largest immune organ. Around 70% of our immune system resides in the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, or GALT for short. This intimate relationship between the gut and our immune system means that the gut is a major interface between the external environment and our internal immune regulation. Now, when the gut is inflamed, either because of a compromised gut lining, imbalance in our gut flora, or ingestion of inflammatory foods, just to name a few, it can affect the immune system and drive autoimmune flares. So no, we actually can't talk about immune health without talking about gut health. The truth is, our gut is the gatekeeper of our immune system. A healthy gut helps train the immune system, regulate inflammation, and prevent immune overreactions. That's why gut health is pillar number one of the Beyond Autoimmunity Method. It's one of the most powerful places to begin. We start by identifying and removing digestive triggers, restoring balance to our microbiome, and calming gut inflammation. And sometimes, to be honest, if we do just that, a lot of the time, pillar 2, 3, and 4 are very quick to go through because it's so foundational to everything else. Our gut is so foundational to everything else. Now, myth number 3, medication is the only answer. Although medications can be an important part of the picture, they don't rebuild the foundation. They can help reduce the risk of further tissue destruction, but they rarely address why your body became dysregulated in the first place, which can be why so many of us still feel unwell despite taking meds. We need to ask what triggered or is continuing to trigger the immune dysregulation. Our immune system is designed to protect us from foreign invaders. Why is it attacking our own tissues? What's fueling that inflammation? Identifying these is how we start to change our story. And like I said, I like to tie in that fourth myth here because we're often told that diet and lifestyle don't make a difference in our autoimmune health. This is still one of the most damaging beliefs, in my opinion, because these have such a significant impact on our health. The Beyond Autoimmunity Method is not about perfection. It's about progress. So we don't need to overhaul our diet and lifestyle overnight. But when we align your nutrition, movement, mindset, and environment with your biology, your inflammation bucket starts to empty. and you begin to experience what I call autoimmune resilience, which is fewer flares, more energy, and a body that finally feels like home again. Your daily habits are powerful tools for health. Again, this is where you take your power back. So now that we've cleared away those outdated beliefs, we can move forward with a new understanding, one that's rooted in empowerment, science, and possibility. So now that we've reframed what's really driving autoimmunity, let's talk about what it looks like to rebuild health from the inside out. This is the approach that I've refined over years of both personal and clinical experience. It's called the Beyond Autoimmunity Method, and it focuses on restoring balance in four key systems that work together to calm inflammation, restore energy, and help your body find balance again. Again, these four key systems are your gut, mitochondria, hormones, and the immune system. You can think of these as the four legs of a table. When one is unsteady, everything wobbles. When all four are supported, you feel strong and resilient again. The beauty of this framework is that it's personalized. There's no one size fits all. We start where your biggest sources of inflammation live, and we build from there step by step. Now, we can't avoid every stressor that comes our way, but we can change how our body responds to them. By lowering the level of inflammation in our bucket, you create more space, more resiliency. So when life spills something in, and again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, we don't always overflow into that flare. Now, rather than list all the science behind it, because I like to nerd out behind the science, let's show you what this looks like in real life. And let's meet Anne here. So let me introduce you to Anne, not her real name, but a very real story. Anne came to me completely drained. She was in her late 30s, juggling a demanding job, 2 kids, and 2 autoimmune diagnoses that she felt were running her life. She said, I'm doing everything right. I'm taking my meds, I'm eating gluten-free, but I still feel awful. Her fatigue was so deep she could barely get through her day. Her brain fog made it hard to think, and she felt like she was failing at everything that mattered to her. Like so many women I see, Anne didn't need more willpower. She was so motivated to feel better. She just needed a roadmap. That's where the Beyond Autoimmunity Method came in. The two systems that need the most support for Anne was her gut and her hormones. So we started with her gut, where we discovered chronic inflammation and microbial imbalances through comprehensive stool testing. She had been diagnosed with celiac and was told all she needed to do was avoid gluten. But there was so much more than just gluten causing inflammation in her gut. Once we addressed that, her digestion and brain fog improved. Next, we supported her mitochondrial health by replenishing nutrients like B12, iron, and vitamin D, and supporting her antioxidant status, restorative sleep, and starting with gentle movement. Her energy began to return, and she felt like she had more capacity. From there, we worked on her hormonal health, helping her manage stress, balance blood sugar levels, and support restorative sleep. Anne had also been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, a thyroid autoimmune condition. And although she has been taking thyroid medication, she didn't feel it was making much of a difference. What's important to understand is that our hormones don't work in isolation. They operate in a constant feedback loop. So when cortisol is high, cortisol being our stress hormone, so when cortisol is high from chronic stress, it can disrupt thyroid conversion and alter sex hormone balance. When blood sugar fluctuates, it can trigger more cortisol and insulin, which can further impact inflammation and energy. And when our sleep is poor, well, that just kind of throws off all the other things, all the other systems. Now, instead of looking at each hormone separately, we took a holistic view of her hormonal network, identifying where those communication loops had broken down and rebuilding the rhythm between them. As her body began to find that rhythm again, her sleep deepened, her PMS eased, her periods became lighter, and she began feeling calm instead of constantly wired and overwhelmed. By the time we got to the immune pillar, she was already feeling a lot better. We took the opportunity to make sure her vitamin D levels were optimal and that her white blood cells and inflammatory markers had normalized. Symptomatically, over time, Anne's flares had become very infrequent. She had more energy, clearer thinking, and a stronger sense of control. She told me that for the first time, I actually understand what my body needs and I know how to support it. Anne's story isn't about perfection, it's about a partnership with her body. That's the heart of the Beyond Autoimmunity Method. So, lowering inflammation, rebuilding energy, and expanding your capacity to live fully, even with autoimmunity. So, let's quickly recap what we've covered. This is the new foundation of a new way forward. You're not powerless. Your genes may predispose you, but your choices, what you eat, how you rest, how you care for your body can shape your health outcomes. Number 2 is that your gut matters. It's the command center of your immune system, and supporting it can be an important step to reduce symptoms, flares, and inflammation. And then the third one, medications can help, but they're not the full solution. We need to look deeper to find and address root causes. And our diet and lifestyle are powerful tools. Small, consistent changes in how you eat, move, sleep, and manage stress can lead to major improvements in how you feel. It is possible to feel better despite our autoimmunity. Anne's story is just one example. With the right framework, you can reduce risk of flares, restore your energy, and feel like yourself again. Now, if you're anything like me, I know what you're thinking. So before we move forward, I want to acknowledge what some of you might be thinking at this point. If you're feeling unsure or even a little overwhelmed right now, that's completely normal. When you've been unwell for a long time, it's hard to imagine things being different. And when you're in the middle of the storm, even small changes can feel like a lot. But what I want you to know is this doesn't have to be as hard as it seems. It's not about being perfect. I think I've said that like 10 times already. It's so true. It's not about being perfect. It's about taking small, steady, strategic, and sustainable steps, not overhauling everything overnight, and especially not doing this alone. Because right now, you're at a meaningful point in your health journey, a moment of creation. You have the chance to choose what comes next. You can stay on the path you've been walking, doing your best to manage, but still feeling depleted, frustrated, or stuck. Or you can gently choose a new direction, one that invites health, clarity, and reconnection with your body in a healthy way. Again, this isn't about overhauling your life overnight. It's about beginning to shift the foundation one small intentional step at a time. And those steps start to add up. They start to create positive changes. Now, if this message is resonating with you and you're ready to begin making sense of your symptoms and reconnecting with your energy and your body in a healthy way, I'd love to support you. I'm offering a complimentary health strategy call where we'll sit down together one-on-one and talk through your unique story. We'll explore what you've been going through, what's been keeping you stuck, and the next steps to help you move forward with more clarity and confidence. Again, this is a space for understanding so you can finally feel heard, validated, and supported. If that sounds like something you'd find helpful, I'd be honored to connect with you. Now, I want to circle back to my story, and I want to leave you with a glimpse of what's possible, not just for me, but for you too. This is me now, after applying the same principles I teach in the Beyond Autoimmunity Method. And to be honest, this is the program and support I wish I had 18 years ago. Now, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I am grateful for my autoimmunity. It's honestly the only thing that could have caused me to stop, reassess, and take the steps I needed for my health. I chose to stop pushing through the pain. I learned to listen to my symptoms and use them as guidance instead of fighting them. And I started making space for what my body actually needs to thrive, mind and body. Now, picture on the right there. That's me in my happy place, deadlifting as heavy as I can. I hold on to goals very loosely at the gym, though, with lots of compassion and flexibility. So, no, I don't get to lift heavy every time I'm in the gym. I check in with my body daily to see what it feels like doing that day. With great support from and guidance from both my personal trainer and guidance from my body, I always end up having a good workout. Now, the one on the far left, that's me listening to my body on a low energy day and fitting in movement on my terms. And the one in the middle there, that's me hiking a volcano with my family above the clouds, fully present, full of energy, and full of gratitude for the progress I've made. Now, these moments didn't happen overnight. They were built slowly with intention and compassion and willingness to do things differently. Now, to be honest, I have to say that I feel healthier today with my autoimmune conditions than I did before my diagnoses because I really wasn't taking care of myself in the way that I needed to before. Now, your story might not look exactly like mine, but it is possible to feel well. And I'd love to help you write your next chapter. Autoimmunity might have been driving the bus for a while, but it doesn't have to stay that way. With clarity and intention, you can reclaim the driver's seat. So, if you need help sorting through your symptoms and figuring out what support makes the most sense for your body, here's the information to set up that complimentary strategy call. So, looking forward to chatting with you.